Fam, you're going to want to stop scrolling for this one. Check this out. This is a map of the United States Geological Survey. And what they do is they map out all the earthquakes throughout the entire world and track them. But as I was looking at it, I noticed obviously the frequency happening in Alaska and the United States, but then I noticed something really peculiar. Do me a favor and take a look at Antarctica. Notice how absolutely massive it is. I mean, here's what it looks like on Google Earth. Much smaller than both South America and Africa, barely covering any ground, to the official USGS website portraying it as literally going around the entirety of the world. Now in this picture you can see they have it covering the entire Western Hemisphere. And here's the Eastern Hemisphere. They have it covering the entirety of it. Now this is crazy to me. So down the rabbit hole I went, and what I found absolutely blows my mind. See, flat earthers were onto something, but where they go wrong is assuming that the earth is only as big as they portray. It's actually much, much larger, and a part of something even bigger yet. This is known as the Atlantean Conspiracy and the Masonic Mystery of 33. It's the belief that we are surrounded by an ice wall, and that once beyond this ice wall, a whole new world awaits, including up to 33 continents. From elaborate German bases with super advanced technology, to places like Agartha, discovered by Admiral Byrd in 1947 on Operation High Jump. I always wondered why they called it Operation High Jump. But that's just the beginning of the story. There's a lot more to go. Once beyond the first ice wall, there's up to 6 more continents. These continents harbor descendants of the 13 bloodlines. The 13 bloodlines include names like Rothschild, Rockefeller, or even Kennedy. And if you look back throughout history, there are many members that have died premature deaths, either by murder or just passing away. It is believed that they did not in fact die at all. They just went beyond the ice wall. See, the elites have known about this the whole time. They keep us in the dark by simply altering the world map. I mean, thinking about it, how easy would it be? We really have no way of fact-checking any of this. And there's really been no civilian expeditions allowed to go to either of the poles for years. In 2011 they tried, but people that were part of the expedition started disappearing. So other than the occasional subtle hint like the Illuminati being obsessed with 33, or once in a great while witnessing multiple suns, it would be easy to hide the fact that ancient alien civilizations live on all these continents, and that is part of something that's bigger than we ever imagined. So a few months back, I read about a gentleman's 5th experience taking a certain special mushroom. At the time, he was a renowned journalist in his mid to late 30s. But what this gentleman was using them for was much different than recreation. He wasn't a regular user, but he was trying to achieve something, and he told of this experience. The previous 3 or 4 times he had taken them, he had only seen shapes, like triangles, circles, and squares. But this particular time, he achieved something different. The following was his experience. After consumption, he would sit Indian style in the middle of his living room floor. Once again, he began seeing the usual shapes, triangles, circles, and squares. But about a half hour in, something changed. He began to feel this immense pressure on his body, a pressure like he had never felt before. And slowly, he began losing his breath. He had to remind himself to relax. But as he did, the pressure kept increasing. The pressure continued to go up, until right before he was just about to stop breathing. This is when he felt a large pull and almost a small explosion. Boom! It takes him a second to gather his bearings, but suddenly he realizes he's looking down at his own body. It hits him like a ton of bricks that he's back to normal, and he remembers everything, and that what he's staring at is himself and his vessel that seems to be in some sort of stasis. He even watches his chest bounce up and down just to be sure. He said he was in his purest energy form. Then, out of nowhere, a bright blue light begins to approach him. When he realizes who it is, he's ecstatic. It's his spirit guide. It's been so long, he can't believe it. They greet each other, and he begins weeping. He misses her so much. And as they ascend, he looks back at his body, and even his body is crying. When they finally reach his proper dimension, she explains everything. He has so many questions, but she's answering them as he thinks them to himself. He recalls the utter state of peace he was in, the state of being. He explains that all the problems of the world were gone, and he had no worries at all. He looks out and notices familiar light beings, but he cannot talk to them because he is in his tour on Earth. In that dimension, he has only been on his tour for days, not years, as time is much different in the light world. Then it hits him, his goal. He has a goal that he sets before he comes down to Earth. Then he said you are to select your parents. There may be a pool of 100 or 1,000. Then once he chooses his parents, based on which ones will help him achieve his goal on Earth, that's when you enter your human body as a baby in your mother's womb, as long as it's the first 3 months of pregnancy. Then you're born and forget everything, too. What if I told you an ancient advanced super civilization existed before Antarctica had ice, and that they met their demise due to something apocalyptic? The map you see behind me was rediscovered in 1929 by a German theologian. It was created in 1513 by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, and is said to be one of the last maps drawn off of one of Christopher Columbus's maps. Using the Columbus map, along with much older ancient Arabic maps, Piri Reis was able to produce this. But what has the scientific community buzzing is the fact that he draws Antarctica with no ice. This map, along with 2 others in existence, were the only ones to ever depict Antarctica with no ice. The more popular of the 2 maps remaining is the one behind me, the Orance Finne 1534 world map. Both creators referenced a compilation of ancient maps that are no longer in existence, meaning ancient civilizations existed that could map the world before Antarctica had ice. And not only were they able to produce them, they did so accurately, as both maps have the circumference of the Earth correct within 50 miles. So when did this ancient super civilization exist? They figure anywhere from 9 to 13,000 BC. This number was derived from ice core samples taken from the Arctic shelf that prove she had no ice during this time. Many believe that this super civilization could have been the giants, and that they were the ones responsible for all of the megaliths we find throughout the world. The ancient stone carvings were how they cemented their legacy in history. But what happened to them? Where did they go? Well, this is where it gets interesting. In 2006, using data produced by satellites that pick up gravitational anomalies, a team of researchers discovered a massive anomaly below Wilkes Land in Antarctica. What they discovered? A 300-mile wide crater at a depth of almost 2,400 feet. They figure this massive crater, which is up to 3 times the size of the Chicxulub crater, which ended the dinosaurs, was produced by an asteroid. The asteroid that killed the dinosaurs was nearly 6 miles wide. This one is estimated to be almost 30. But this is where I feel researchers are getting it wrong. They assume that this impact took place almost 200 million years ago. In all reality, they haven't been able to verify this because it's so far below Antarctica's ice shelf. So my theory is they are mistaken, that asteroid actually made impact as recent as 9 to 13,000 years ago. This impact would be so devastating that it could actually shift the poles, and it would most certainly create an ice age due to the debris blotting out the sun. That, along with the massive flooding, which some scholars believe there has been more than one flood, would wipe out 90+% of all living things on Earth, including super civilizations. So what do y'all think? Could my theory be correct? Let me know in the comments. And make sure you smash that like button and follow me for more content. Click the link in my bio and follow me on other platforms for more. Alright y'all, this story's just messed up, so I had to share it. It starts out, a gentleman owns a storage unit in Northern California. He would frequent it often because he would collect antiques and store them there. But over the last month, he would become frustrated because every time he'd open his storage unit, dust from the next one would fall into his, due to whatever he had in there, caving the walls in. Eventually, he would grow tired of it, so he called management, and they would show up and open the storage unit next to him. And what they would find, they absolutely were not expecting. The registered owner of the storage unit's name was Alan Vieira. It turns out he was an older gentleman who was a pilot. Alan was a pilot who had a unique career. He had contracts with over 150 funeral homes in the area. And the service he provided was that he would scatter ashes for people's loved ones over the sea or land for a fee. But unfortunately, he would lose his license back in 1986. It was 1997. But he wanted to maintain his income, so he started putting the ashes in storage units. And not one, but 2 storage units, they would find over 2,000 boxes of ashes. So of course, authorities were on the hunt. They started looking for him, but they couldn't find him. They would go to his hangar where his plane was located. They would locate 1,000 more boxes of ashes from people's loved ones. Authorities would eventually catch up to him, but it was too late. They would locate his car parked on a lone 2-track in the wilderness, and 200 yards away, they would find him. He would take his own life. But on a good note, each box was properly labeled, so they were able to get the remains back to their families. Only a small handful never found their way back home because the boxes were too damaged. With these, authorities would do the right thing and give them a burial at sea.
Hey friends all over the world, I come